Hello, boys and girls. Miss Diane again. We are here for our next math lesson. We are starting chapter 9, lesson 6. Let's get started. Our math objective for today. Students will use two-dimensional shapes to make a composite shape and compose new shapes from the composite shape. Let's go ahead and move on. All right, so today's lesson, lesson 6, kind of works off of what we learned from lesson 5 yesterday, where we learned how to make composite shapes. That means we can take two or more two-dimensional shapes and put them together to make a new shape. For example, if I put two of my trapezoids together, I know that I can make a hexagon. Let me go ahead and trace this. So this is my composite shape. Remember, composite means making a new shape from other shapes. So if I were to trace my two trapezoids, I would make a hexagon. Today's lesson is about taking that composite shape we made and moving it around in a different way to make a different composite shape with the shapes we already have. So if I were to use my two trapezoids, maybe I can flip them around and make a whole new composite shape. I can make a new composite shape like this. I can make a composite shape like this. I can make different composite shapes. I'm going to trace this one and call this my new composite shape. I'll trace it, and then once I lift it, you'll get to see the new shape I made. My last line. So with my two trapezoids, I can make this composite shape, and if I draw the line down the middle, you'll get to see where my trapezoid was. I can also make this composite shape, and here's where my two trapezoids are. Let's go ahead and move on to see and show. See and show, you can move pattern blocks around to make different composite shapes. For example, they're saying, let's go ahead and start with a trapezoid and a triangle. And if we put them together, we make a bigger triangle. Well, I want to take this composite shape and make a different one with the same shapes we had. So we're only going to use the trapezoid and the triangle. And if I just move my shapes around, my two-dimensional shapes, I end up with a whole new composite shape. And that's what we have drawn down here. I'll trace it. If you already have your paper with you, you can go ahead and work on it with me. There you go. That means we can turn this composite shape into this composite shape just by moving the two-dimensional shapes around. Let's move on. We'll start number 1. We'll do this together. Our directions are to circle the pattern blocks used to make the composite shape. Then use the same blocks to make a new shape. Draw your shape. So first of all, we need to look at the composite shape they already have for us and identify the two-dimensional shapes they use. In blue, I see a rhombus. I'm going to circle the rhombus. And in red, I have a trapezoid. Let's circle the trapezoid. Now let's go ahead and turn this composite shape using those same shapes into something new. Here's my trapezoid, and here is my rhombus. This is the shape they made for us. Now we need to turn this into a new shape. I can possibly turn this on the other side. Now it looks like the mirror image. I can put it here to make a super long trapezoid like this. I can do something like this. Maybe I can do something like this. So let's go ahead and maybe choose this one. Once I've decided how I want to build that composite shape, I'm going to trace it. And we're going to try to do this without moving the shapes, which is kind of hard. And if you have these kinds of pattern blocks at home, you can do it just like me. Or if you don't, you're going to draw it freehand. And we're not looking for perfection here. There you go. I just turned this composite shape into this composite shape. Now let's take a moment to do our talk math. Remember this part, you talk with somebody who's with you, and we're going to have a discussion afterwards. Talk math. Describe two shapes you could put together to make a rectangle. So take a moment to think about this and then have a conversation. If you need extra time, now's when you can pause my video and talk about this, maybe with your mom, your brother, your dad, your sister, grandma, grandpa, anyone who you're with, you can have this conversation with. Describe two shapes you could put together to make a rectangle. All right, let's come back together. So what are two shapes we can put together to make a rectangle? So this is where I would probably explore the shapes I already have. And when I look at my trapezoid, my rhombus, my triangle, I'm going to start to think about what shapes can I manipulate to make a rectangle. What if I put two triangles together? Would that make me a rectangle? Not really. It looks more like a rhombus. What if I put two trapezoids together? That doesn't quite make it either. So it looks like if I were to go off of the shapes we have here for us already, if I were to put two squares together, I could make a rectangle, as so. So here's one square. And if I were to put another square right next to it, that looks like a rectangle. If my lines are lined up, I end up with a rectangle. So two shapes to make a rectangle, I would put two squares. I hope that's a conversation you have. Okay, so let's move on. We are going to move on to what you're going to do on your own. So on the next page, for on my own, for number 2, 3, and 4, you are to use the pattern blocks shown to make the composite shape. So first, if you have your pattern blocks at home like I do, it says make this composite shape. Then use those same two-dimensional shapes to make a new one, and then draw it here. So you can do any kind of shape you want in this space here, but you must use 1, 2, 3, 4 triangles. Same for number 3, you have 2 triangles and a rhombus. You have to make a new shape using only those shapes. Same with number 4. On our next page for problem solving, number 5 reads, Edgar is making different shapes using these 4 pattern blocks. Draw one of the shapes Edgar can make. So you're doing the same. Use these 4 triangles to make a new shape. And our hot problem reads, Alex has a hexagon. He cuts it apart into a trapezoid and 3 triangles. Draw lines to show this, then explain your answer. So here is the hexagon. You need to figure out how to turn this hexagon, this one two-dimensional shape, into other two-dimensional shapes. So your two-dimensional shapes are 1 trapezoid and 3 triangles. If you have the shapes, you can work with them. Here is a trapezoid, triangle, triangle, and then you're going to try to see how you can make this hexagon. Once you've figured it out, you're going to draw those lines on the hexagon, then explain your answer here. That's it for today, boys and girls. I'll see you again next time.